Welcome back, friends. Take a deep breath, loosen your shoulders, and imagine you are walking into a bright kitchen at 7 a.m. The kettle is singing, the sun is still shy, and your day is about to begin. Today, we are going to talk about something you live through every single day, but rarely describe in English: your work routine.
This is the heartbeat of your day. When someone asks, "So, what do you do from morning to evening?" you want your answer to sound natural, confident, and real. Not like a textbook, not like a rushed list, but like a story that flows. In this episode, we will guide you through that story.
If you ever freeze when someone says, "Walk me through your day," stay with us. By the end of this episode, you will be able to describe your morning, your commute, your tasks, your breaks, your meetings, and even the moment you power down your laptop with calm, clear language. And we will do it without complicated grammar walls.
We will speak at a natural pace. We will repeat key phrases in different ways so they stick. We will also show you how to add emotion and personality, because your routine is more than steps on a clock. It is the rhythm of your life, with small moments of stress and quiet victories that make you, you.
Picture this. You pour coffee, check your calendar, and send that first message. Do you say, "I start work at 9," or is there a better way? Maybe, "I usually log in at 9, but I like to plan my top 3 tasks at 8:45. Hear the difference? One is a fact. The other feels like a person speaking.
And because this is a daily English podcast for learners at the B1 to B2 level, we will keep our language friendly and precise. You will hear real-life examples, short dialogues, and small adjustments that make your English sound more natural. Think of us as your morning coworkers who actually make your day easier.
We promise something simple and powerful. First, you will learn phrases that describe real routines. Then, you will hear how those phrases live inside a conversation between two colleagues. Finally, you will discover how to personalize your routine so it reflects your schedule, your energy, and your values.
If your mornings feel hectic, if your commute is noisy, or if your meetings leave you overwhelmed, you are not alone. We've all been there. Let us transform those experiences into clear English that helps you connect at work, make small talk with confidence, and tell your story without getting stuck.
Grab your mug, settle in, and lean forward with us. This episode is your gentle push towards sounding like yourself in English, warm, organized, and ready for the day.
Now let us open the door to the world of ordinary mornings that feel extraordinary when you can finally describe them with ease. Ready?
Let us begin.
Let's start with a simple question. When someone asks, "How's work?" what do you usually say? Most people answer with one word: busy, or fine. But imagine if you could say more. Imagine describing what your day feels like, not just what happens. That's what natural English is about, sharing your world, not listing your schedule.
Exactly. Think about this. Your work routine says a lot about you. The way you start your morning, handle pressure, or take breaks. All of that shapes how people understand your personality and your attitude toward life. If you can talk about it clearly, you show confidence and emotional awareness, not just vocabulary.
And it helps in real life too. Job interviews, small talk with colleagues, or even chatting with foreign clients, they all include some version of, "What's your typical day like?" If you can answer that smoothly, you sound organized and professional.
But here's the tricky part. Most learners only memorize robotic phrases like, "I wake up at 7, I go to work at 8, I finish at 5. That's technically correct, but it doesn't sound natural. A native speaker might say, "I usually wake up around 7, but I try to get a head start on emails before breakfast." See the difference? It feels more alive, more real.
Right. The secret is rhythm and emotion. English is not just a language of grammar, it's a language of flow. When you tell your daily routine like a story, it draws listeners in. It makes them curious. It makes you memorable.
So let's set the scene for today's episode. We'll walk through a typical workday, from waking up to logging off, and you'll learn how to describe it naturally. We'll meet someone named Anna, an office worker, balancing meetings, deadlines, and that eternal question, where did the time go?
Through her story, you'll hear common expressions for time, stress, focus, and rest, all connected to work life. These are phrases that real people use every day, not phrases from grammar books.
And before we jump into Anna's day, take a moment to think about yours. How do your mornings begin? Do you rush? Or do you like a calm start? When you describe your day in English, your feelings matter just as much as your actions. It's what makes your story sound authentic.
That's a beautiful point, Ella, because learning a language isn't just about words, it's about identity. The moment you can talk about your real life in English, your habits, your stress, your little victories, that's when English starts to feel like your language, not something you borrow.
And I think that's why I love this topic so much. Talking about your daily work routine helps you see patterns. You notice what energizes you, what drains you, and how you can balance both. It's self-awareness through language.
Exactly. So as we guide you through this episode, don't just repeat what you hear. Reflect. Ask yourself, does this sound like my day? Or would I say it like that? The more personal it feels, the faster you'll remember it.
Coming up next, we'll learn some key vocabulary that will make describing your routine easier and more natural. Words and expressions that bring your sentences to life.
And then we'll dive right into Anna's story, one that might sound a little too familiar for anyone who's ever hit the snooze button one too many times.
Oh, I think we've all been there.
Absolutely.
Let's get you ready for that story with some essential vocabulary first. All right, friends, let's warm up your vocabulary before we step into Anna's world. These are words and expressions that make your daily work routine sound vivid, emotional, and real, not flat or mechanical.
Yes, and we'll use each one in short examples so you can feel how they work in real sentences. Think of this as your morning coffee for English fluency.
Perfect. Our first word is hectic. It means very busy or full of activity, often stressful. You can say, my morning was hectic. I had to answer 10 emails, make a report, and attend 2 meetings before lunch.
You can also use it with time periods. For example, it's been a hectic week at the office. It suggests things are happening quickly and non-stop.
Right. And it's more emotional than just saying busy. When you say hectic, people can feel the pressure behind it.
Next, we have commute. This is the time or distance you travel between home and work. For example, my commute takes about 40 minutes.
Or, I usually listen to podcasts during my commute. You can use it as a noun or a verb. I commute to the city every day. It's such a natural part of work life for so many people.
And here's a useful phrase, to clock in or to clock out. It means to officially start or finish your workday, especially in offices or factories. For example, I usually clock in at 9 and clock out at 5.
But if you work from home, you can say, I log into my company system at 9. It's the same idea, beginning your work routine.
Our next phrase is to catch up on something. It means to do something you've missed or delayed. I need to catch up on emails, or I'm catching up on my reports this afternoon.
It's also used in conversations, like, let's catch up soon, which means let's talk and share updates.
Exactly. And now, a very human word, overwhelmed. It means feeling like there's too much to handle. For example, I felt overwhelmed by the number of tasks waiting for me after the meeting.
Or emotionally. I was overwhelmed with messages on my birthday. It can be positive or negative depending on the context.
And one last phrase before we begin the story, wind down. It means to relax after work, to slowly calm your body and mind. For example, after a long day, I like to wind down by listening to soft music.
Or I usually wind down with a short walk before dinner. It's that gentle transition from work energy to rest mode, something we all need more of.
Let's quickly review. We've learned hectic, commute, clock in, catch up, overwhelmed, and wind down. Each one helps you describe your day with emotion and rhythm.
And you'll hear all of them in our story about Anna, an office worker whose day begins like many of ours, a little too early, a little too rushed, and filled with unexpected moments that test her patience.
As you listen, try to notice how naturally these words fit into real conversations. Don't focus on memorizing, just let them flow into your ear.
Because when you feel the story, the vocabulary sticks.
Exactly. So take a sip of your drink, relax, and imagine this: the sound of an alarm, a sleepy sigh, and a day that's just about to begin.
Here we go. Anna's morning routine. The alarm rings at 6:30 a.m., a familiar sound that feels both necessary and cruel. Anna groans softly, half buried under her blanket. For a moment, she considers hitting snooze, just 5 more minutes, but she knows how that story ends.
She's already done the math in her head. 5 more minutes turns into 20, and 20 means rushing through breakfast and missing the early train. So, with a quiet sigh, she sits up, rubs her eyes, and tells herself the same thing she does every morning. Okay, let's do this.
She walks into the kitchen and presses the coffee machine button. That familiar hum fills the silence. The smell of fresh coffee slowly wakes her up. While waiting, she opens her phone, just for a quick scroll, and that's where the trouble begins.
Notifications, messages, a new email from her boss, marked urgent. It's only 6:45. She frowns, thinking, why do people send work emails this early? But curiosity wins and she opens it. The subject line reads, meeting schedule changed, 8:30 a.m. instead of 10.
Her first thought? Oh no. She's supposed to catch the 7:45 train, and now she'll need to leave even earlier. She quickly pours her coffee into a travel mug, skips breakfast, and rushes to the bathroom. It's one of those mornings, already hectic before the sun has fully risen.
While brushing her teeth, she practices her schedule in her head. Okay, meeting at 8:30, then project review at 10, catch up on emails before lunch. She glances at her reflection and gives herself a small nod, as if confirming she can survive another day.
At 7:15, she steps outside. The city is already alive. Buses roaring, motorbikes weaving through traffic, people clutching their cups of caffeine like lifelines. Anna plugs in her earphones and starts her daily commute playlist. Soft acoustic songs that make the world seem calmer than it really is.
She catches the train just in time. Inside, every seat is taken. A tired-looking man in a suit is already asleep against the window. A student nearby is reading notes. A mother is keeping her child entertained with a small snack. Everyone's morning story is different, but they all share the same sleepy rhythm.
As the train moves, Anna watches the city blur past. Buildings, billboards, the occasional flash of sunlight between stations. She takes a deep breath and thinks, maybe today won't be so bad. But just then, her phone vibrates again. A message from her coworker, Lisa. The presentation slides aren't loading on the shared drive. Do you have the backup?
Anna's heart skips. The slides are on her office computer. She'll have to fix it when she arrives. Another tiny problem, but enough to raise her stress level a few notches. She types back, got it. I'll check as soon as I get in.
The train stops and she steps into the station's chaos. The blend of footsteps, announcements, and that constant background noise of city life. As she climbs the stairs, sunlight hits her face. She blinks, exhales, and whispers to herself, okay, clock in, coffee, fix the slides. I can do this.
And in that moment, she's not just surviving the morning, she's rehearsing resilience, the quiet strength behind every working adult who faces the day even when they'd rather stay in bed.
Little does she know, this day will teach her something new, not about work, but about slowing down and noticing the small, meaningful details she's been rushing past.
Because sometimes the lessons we learn at work aren't written in meetings or memos. They appear in the pauses between one task and the next.
And that's where Anna's story is heading, right into one of those unexpected pauses.
By the time Anna clocks in, it's 8:12 a.m. She made it, barely. The office lights are already bright. The smell of coffee and printer ink fills the air. Her computer hums to life as she opens her email. 50 unread messages. She exhales slowly.
She types a quick "good morning" in the team chat, hoping no one asks her about the presentation yet. But of course, within seconds, a new notification pops up from her boss. "Anna, please make sure the slides are ready before 8:30. We'll start on time today."
Her fingers fly across the keyboard. She finds the file, reloads the drive, and watches that little blue bar creep forward, 20%, 40, 60. For a moment she stops breathing. Then finally, a green check mark. Uploaded. She lets out a quiet laugh of relief, one of those tired giggles that says, "Crisis averted."
"You're a lifesaver," Lisa messages. Anna replies with a simple smile emoji. There's no time to celebrate. The meeting starts in 3 minutes. She grabs her notepad, takes a sip of lukewarm coffee, and joins the conference room.
Inside, everyone's trying to look awake. Some sip water, others scroll through phones pretending to review notes. Her boss begins. "Good morning, everyone. Let's keep today's meeting brief. We've got a lot to cover." The first 15 minutes fly by. Anna listens, nods, takes notes, and answers questions when called on. She's focused, but her mind occasionally drifts to the window, to the sunlight dancing on the opposite building, to the thought of how automatic her mornings have become.
It's a common feeling, isn't it? That strange autopilot mode when you're busy but not really present. You're doing the tasks, replying to emails, attending meetings, but you're not there.
Exactly. And that's where Anna finds herself now. After the meeting, she returns to her desk, feeling strangely disconnected. Her coworker, Mark, stops by. "You okay? You look a bit overwhelmed." She smiles faintly. "Yeah, just one of those mornings."
He nods knowingly. Same here. You know what helps me? Taking 10 minutes to step outside. Even just standing in the sun makes a difference.
Anna glances at her endless to-do list. "I wish I had time," she says. Mark smiles. "That's the point. You don't find time, you make it." The words stick with her. Maybe it's the tone, maybe it's the simplicity, but something about that line feels like truth. She decides to take his advice. At 11:15, between two tasks, she grabs her phone and steps outside.
The air feels different. Softer, warmer. The street is full of life. A food cart clinking, 2 cyclists passing by, a child chasing a ball. She feels a strange calm spreading through her chest. For the first time today, she's breathing slowly.
She checks her phone. No new emails. The world didn't collapse while she was gone. She smiles. Maybe she can allow herself to pause once in a while.
When she walks back inside, her mind feels lighter. She finishes the report, answers messages, even laughs at a coworker's joke. The chaos hasn't disappeared, but her energy has changed. She's no longer overwhelmed. She's simply in motion, aware, and present.
And that shift from reaction to awareness is something we often overlook in daily routines. You can't remove stress completely, but you can learn to notice it, to breathe through it, and to keep moving.
By 5 p.m., Anna closes her laptop. She leans back, stretches, and whispers to herself, "Done for today." For the first time in a while, those words don't sound like exhaustion. They sound like peace.
She packs her bag, waves goodbye, and steps outside again. The evening light feels different now, not harsh or rushed, just soft and golden.
It's the same city, the same commute, the same person, but a slightly calmer heart.
And maybe that's the quiet power of every ordinary day, the ability to change how you see it without changing the routine itself.
That's the hidden lesson in Anna's story. You can't always control your schedule, but you can choose how you move through it.
Exactly. And that's something worth reflecting on.
You know, Ryan, as I was listening to Anna's story, I realized how familiar that feeling is. That quiet rush we all live in every morning. We move from task to task, pretending we're in control, but inside we're just trying not to drown.
I know exactly what you mean. And what's interesting is that Anna didn't do anything extraordinary today. She didn't get a promotion or win an award. She simply took a moment to pause. But that pause completely changed her emotional landscape.
That's such an important word. Pause. We don't give it enough credit. In our daily work routines, we treat silence like a mistake, rest like a luxury, and calmness like laziness. But it's actually the opposite. Pausing helps us reset our focus.
There's even research on that. A psychology study from Stanford University found that people who take short breaks every 90 minutes perform better and feel less drained by the end of the day. It's not about doing less, it's about letting your mind breathe.
I love that, letting your mind breathe. Because when we pause, even for a few seconds, we notice life again. The sunlight, the coffee smell, a coworker's laughter. These tiny things don't solve our problems, but they remind us we're still human underneath all the schedules.
Exactly. And I think that's what Anna rediscovered today, that sense of awareness. She didn't quit her job or change her career. She just learned to show up differently, more present, more grounded.
I've noticed that people often describe their workdays as hectic or overwhelming, but rarely as meaningful. Yet, meaning isn't always found in dramatic moments. Sometimes it's in those small shifts, when you choose to breathe instead of react, to listen instead of rush.
That's so true. And for English learners, it's a beautiful metaphor too. When you slow down, your words start to connect more naturally. You stop translating in your head and start speaking from experience. You feel the rhythm of what you say, just like Anna felt the rhythm of her day when she finally stopped running.
I love that parallel. Learning English and living your work routine both require patience, awareness, and small, consistent effort. It's not about perfection, it's about progress.
And that's the emotional heartbeat of today's episode, that your work routine doesn't define your life, how you move through it does.
Exactly. You can describe your day as, I'm always busy. Or you can reframe it as, I handle a lot, but I make space to breathe. One sounds stressful, the other sounds balanced. It's all about perspective.
And maybe, just maybe, that's what Anna taught us today. That sense of awareness. She didn't quit her job or change her career. She just learned to show up differently, more present, more grounded.
So if you're listening to this while working, walking, or even washing dishes, maybe try this. Pause for just 10 seconds. Feel your breath. Notice something good around you, the warmth of your hands, the sound of music, or even the quiet hum of your space.
Because those moments are where language, life, and meaning all meet.
Beautifully said. And I think that's the perfect transition to our learning moment, where we break down some of today's most natural expressions so you can bring that same calm confidence into your English.
Let's do it.
All right, let's take a closer look at the key words and phrases from Anna's story and see how you can make them part of your everyday English. These aren't just vocabulary items, they're emotional tools. They help you express stress, balance, and awareness naturally, just like native speakers do.
Let's start with hectic. Remember how Anna described her morning? It wasn't just busy, it was hectic, a little out of control, full of small fires to put out. When you say, my morning was hectic, you're sharing not only the fact that you were busy, but also the feeling behind it. It paints a picture of chaos with emotion.
Yes, hectic connects you emotionally to your listener. Try saying, this week has been hectic, but I'm handling it. Or, work is hectic right now, but I'm finding my rhythm. That last phrase, finding my rhythm, means you're adapting, learning to manage pressure.
The next one is commute. Such a simple word, but it captures a huge part of people's lives. Instead of saying, I go to work, you can say, I have a 30-minute commute, or I usually listen to music during my commute. It instantly sounds more fluent, more natural.
And that word connects beautifully with another phrase we used, to wind down. After your commute home, you might want to wind down, to relax, slow your pace, and let your mind rest. You can say, I like to wind down with a warm shower, or I usually wind down by reading before bed. Then we have overwhelmed, such a powerful word. When you say, I feel overwhelmed, you're showing vulnerability. It means you have too much to handle emotionally or mentally. But you can also use it positively, like, I was overwhelmed by the support from my colleagues.
And do you remember what Mark told Anna? You don't find time, you make it. That's one of those sentences that stays with you. It teaches an important pattern. In English, we often talk about making time, not finding it. Try saying, I'm trying to make time for exercise, or I need to make time to rest. It sounds intentional and strong.
And another phrase that came up earlier was to catch up on something. It means to complete something you've been behind on. I need to catch up on emails. Or more socially, let's catch up soon, which means reconnecting with someone after a while. It's such a friendly, everyday expression.
Exactly. And one last subtle but powerful phrase, to clock in and to clock out. It might sound mechanical, but it's part of many people's work lives. I clocked in at 9, or I clocked out early today. If you're working remotely, you can replace it with log in or log off.
And that reminds us, language evolves with lifestyle. Whether you're in an office, at home, or freelancing, you can adapt these phrases to fit your world. That's how English becomes your language.
Let's summarize. Today we learned how to move from robotic sentences, like, I go to work at 9, to natural expressions, like, I usually log in around 9 after grabbing a coffee. You're not just learning vocabulary, you're learning to sound alive.
Exactly. Because real English isn't about memorizing words. It's about emotion, rhythm, and connection. When you say something like, my day was hectic, but I found a moment to wind down, people don't just hear your words, they feel your story. And that's the kind of fluency we want you to reach. Not perfect grammar, but confident communication.
Beautifully said, Ryan. And that brings us to the last part of today's episode, a gentle reminder that your daily routine, no matter how ordinary, holds the seeds of growth and learning.
Let's wrap up with that message of motivation.
So, what did we really learn today? That your daily work routine is not just something you repeat, it's something you live. Every email, every commute, every coffee break can teach you a little bit about yourself if you pause long enough to notice it.
Exactly. And in English, those tiny details are gold. When you talk about your day with awareness, using words like hectic, overwhelmed, or wind down, you're not just improving your vocabulary. You're sharing your humanity. You're showing how you think and feel, and that's what makes a conversation meaningful.
We often think English learning is only about big steps, passing a test, mastering grammar, but it's really about the small daily repetitions, describing your morning, talking about your workday, saying how you feel after a long meeting. That's how fluency grows, one real moment at a time.
And what I love about Anna's story is that she didn't have to escape her job or change her life to find balance. She simply changed her focus. Instead of reacting, she started noticing. That's something we can all practice, in life and in language.
So here's a small challenge for you, our listener. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up and start your day, try describing your routine out loud in English. You don't need to be perfect. Just talk. To yourself, to a mirror, to a pet if you have one. Notice how it feels to tell your story in another language.
And when you finish your day, take 1 minute to reflect. Ask yourself, what part of today felt most hectic? Or when did I finally wind down? Turn those experiences into English sentences. That's how your vocabulary stops being a list and becomes part of your life.
I love that, because learning English is not about escaping your daily routine. It's about owning it, expressing it with clarity and emotion. The words you learn here are the bridge between who you are and who you want to become.
So if you're listening right now, maybe on your way to work, maybe washing dishes, maybe winding down after a long day, take a deep breath. You did something valuable today. You gave time to your growth.
Be proud of that. You're not just learning English, you're learning to express life itself through new words and rhythms. That's something worth celebrating.
And if this episode helped you feel a little calmer or more confident, share it with a friend who's also on this journey. Learning together makes the process lighter and more joyful.
We'll be back soon with another episode where we explore another everyday topic, one that will help you connect even more deeply through English.
Until then, remember, your workday doesn't define you. How you move through it does.
Stay curious, stay kind, and keep growing one sentence at a time.
See you soon.
See you soon, everyone.